All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. The Atlanta Falcons found themselves in a very winnable game today at home against the Los Angeles Chargers. But instead, the Falcons found themselves on the wrong side of the 17-13 score after 60 minutes. Turnovers plagued the Falcons today as they gave the Chargers the football four times. More importantly, it was Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins who gave the Chargers the football four times today. He was picked off four times by the lightning bolts, as some of those picks were basically in the category of being inexcusable. And when it's all said and done, that was a difference in the game today. You're talking about Kirk Cousins, throwing a pick six in the third quarter, which allowed the Chargers to retake the lead. They were down 10-9 at that point. They got the pick six, they got the 2-point conversion, and then they were up 17-10. Cousins throwing an interception in the fourth quarter in the end zone in triple coverage, a ball that should not have been thrown. It was one of those where if you're Atlanta at that point, you got at least a field goal in your back pocket. If Cousins eats that ball, instead of being down, 17-13, you're down 17-16. And then at that point, just a field goal is going to win the game for you. And of course, the interception would seal the game in the waning seconds. It's one of those where Atlanta's going to look back and say, wow, we gave one away. And I say that because the Chargers had 10 first downs while the Falcons had 24. The Chargers had 187 total yards of offense while the Falcons had 350, but they only had 13 points to show for it. And at the end of the day, you can rack up all the yards that you want. If you don't score, and more often than not, if you don't win the turnover battle, you're not going to win, especially when your quarterback has thrown four interceptions for the game. And now for the Falcons, after beginning this year 6-3, they now have a three-game losing streak. And the crazy thing about this three-game losing streak for the Falcons is this: in those three games, Kirk Cousins does not have a touchdown pass, but he has six interceptions, of course, highlighted, if you will, by the four that he threw today. And of course, now he's got nine on the season overall. So the Falcons are now 6-6. And because of that, they're keeping everybody else relevant in the NFC South. You've got the Saints taking on the Rams right now at the Superdome. New Orleans is 4-7. You got the Bucks and Panthers sweating it out. And of course, if the Bucks are able to come back and win, they'll be 6-6. Technically, they would be tied with the Falcons, but nonetheless, Atlanta does own that tiebreaker due to the fact that they swept the regular season series from Tampa Bay. But at the end of the day, if you're the Falcons, you really shouldn't rest on that. You got to go out there and try to take care of your business each and every Sunday. So I know that there are going to be some people that are going to be frustrated by Kirk Cousins. I know that there probably are some Falcons fans who felt, you know what, they should not have signed him in the first place. And honestly, at the end of the day, Kirk Cousins is who he is. He's been basically a 500 quarterback throughout his NFL career. He's going to have some games where he wows you. He's going to have some games where he looks bad. He's going to have some games where he puts up gaudy stats. But guess what? At the end of the day, your team is still going to lose. So I know some people are probably asking the question, and you knew it was only going to be a matter of time. But should Falcons head coach Raheem Morris make the switch and go with the rookie at quarterback for the Falcons in one Michael Penix Jr.? Of course, that was, an interesting tidbit, if you will, during the offseason for Atlanta. We saw them go out there in free agency, spend the big money on Kirk Cousins, and then about a month later, we saw them trade up in the first round of the draft to take quarterback Michael Penix Jr. And of course, at some point, it's going to happen. Kirk Cousins has that 4-year, $100 million deal or so. And it's one of those where the Falcons do have an out after 2025. Uh, I don't know if the Falcons are going to make that move to go to Kirk Cousins right now. Maybe they're thinking about it. Okay, it's a possibility if the struggles continue and if the Falcons continue to rack up the losses in the win column. I will say this. I think, it's one of those where outside of next week's game, the Falcons do have some winnable games coming up. However, it's the point of the year where you simply throw the records out. Why? Because even if you got a team that has, double digit losses at this point of the season, those guys on those teams are still playing for jobs. Those coaches are still coaching for jobs. So you can't just simply write it in at this point. It's going to be a homecoming next Sunday for Kirk Cousins as he returns to the Minnesota Vikings as a member of the Falcons, of course. And the Vikings, they are a very tough team this year. They're 10-2. They're right there keeping up with the Detroit Lions for the best record in the NFC. And then right after that, Atlanta's on the road in week 15 on Monday night against the Raiders before they're back home against the New York Giants. Those last two games at Washington and home for Carolina are not going to be easy. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Kirk Cousins can get the ship righted. I'll tell you like this. He will be going up against a tough Vikings defense come next Sunday afternoon. Head coach Kevin O'Connell knows Kirk Cousins in and out. That Vikings defense knows Kirk Cousins in and out due to the fact that they faced him every single day in practice for how many years. But nonetheless, good players find a way to rise to the occasion. Good players also typically find a way to put a bad game behind them. So hopefully that could be the case for Kirk Cousins. But nonetheless, as the losses continue to mount for the Falcons, as the interceptions and lack of touchdowns continue to mount, and we see that disparity, if you will, um, for Kirk Cousins, the questions are going to continue to mount as far as when the Falcons do decide to go with one Michael Penix Jr. at quarterback. So it's going to be interesting to see. These next couple of weeks are going to be interesting to see what happens for the Atlanta Falcons. I'll tell you like this. Um, they're in a very winnable division. Okay. We've seen 8 wins get it done, 8 or 9 wins get it done in recent years in the NFC South. It's probably going to be the case once again. Again, like I said, if you were Atlanta, you had an opportunity, not to say that the Chargers are pushovers, but you had an opportunity to win that game today and you did not. So regardless of what happens, whether the Saints win, whether the Bucks win, the Falcons still control their own destiny in the NFC South. But nonetheless, going forward, especially with the way that this season started for Atlanta, they are going to need better play from their quarterback. But nonetheless, this is who Kirk Cousins is. He'll look good one game, he'll look bad another. He'll put up the stats. You might not win. It's the name of the game. It's who he is. It's who he has been for his entire NFL career. He ain't changing right now. But for the Falcons' sake, they are going to need more out of their quarterback. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line to be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.